Welcome to the Workamper Show, brought to you by Workamper.com. This podcast helps you discover how to finance your RV travel dreams. Each one of our episodes will introduce you to people who are already living the RV lifestyle or to work camping opportunities all around the U.S. You'll also learn how to hit the road the right way and make the most of every opportunity. Now let's turn over today's show to your host, Greg Gerber.
Today I'm speaking with the founder of a rather unique RV manufacturer which specializes in creating double-hulled fiberglass travel trailers. Today's episode is sponsored by Workamper News. Much more than just a job listing website, when you put the tools of this professional service into action, you'll find out just how easy it can be to turn your work camping dreams into reality. A Workamper membership opens the door to a one-stop shop for all things work camping. Being the original resource for work camping, you'll find the largest number of job listings, be able to connect with a community of work campers, and view resources compiled by experts who've been enjoying the RV lifestyle for many years. If you're serious about leading a successful and enjoyable work camping lifestyle, then membership is for you. Join today at www.workamper.com. Embark on new adventures today with the support of Workamper News behind you. Scott Hubble is the CEO of Awaken RV in Apple Creek, Ohio. He started the company as a result of what he called a midlife thought. He reached a point where he realized he was not having as much fun as he used to, and Scott wanted to build something around a community-driven RV niche. That search led him to the fiberglass community, where he saw opportunity to create a new kind of RV. Scott said their first model is called the Morningstar, and he described it as a double-hull, dual-axle, fiberglass molded travel trailer designed with comfort, capability, and a more rugged look. In this interview, Scott explains what double-hull construction means, why it matters for strength and insulation, and how Awaken RV is trying to deliver an RV that is fully equipped right from the start. To tell us more about Awaken RV and its unique travel trailers, please welcome founder and CEO Scott Hubble to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Scott. Tell me a little bit about Awaken RV and how you developed it.
Hey, thank you very much for having us, Greg. Awaken RV was we'll call it a midlife thought. Sometimes there's a midlife crisis, but I reached a point where I just gave some pause and I was like, I'm going to reflect a little bit. And I realized that I wasn't having as much fun as I used to. And I really love the community-driven niches. So I started to explore that a little bit, and I found the fiberglass community, and I thought that there was a lot of opportunity there to develop it. I got a pad and a pen and paper together, and I just started writing down what all I would throw into units, what I thought it would look like. And then I started reaching out to some people, chatting it up, and just getting a good feel of what that niche needed. And then we dove into it, and what we came up with at the end was a double-hulled, dual-axle, fiberglass molded travel trailer that has a dry bath, has a big, huge refrigerator, has all the amenities. Essentially, what we say is that at Awaken, everything is standard. So, we don't want to, take away from your experience. We want to make sure that you're fully equipped when you head out to enjoy the product. But we feel like the aesthetic and the features that we have in this first unit, which is the Morningstar, is really just a game changer. There's nothing else like that on the market.
What does double-hulled mean?
There are a couple outfits that are employing it, but essentially, if you think of the traditional fiberglass travel trailer, you might think of something like a capsule. And there might even just be a single mold that they're pulling the top and the bottom off of, and then they would have a flange around the middle. So if they're doing that and just operating with those two molds, that would be a single hull. There's nothing in between, right? So what we're doing is we're going to have an external shell as well as an internal shell that does a couple different things. Obviously, it makes the unit stronger, but it also insulates it a lot better. It lets it be lent towards 4 seasons, full-time living, things of that nature. So when I looked at what was happening in this space, I saw a couple people doing that, and I thought to myself, that's the way to go. You do sacrifice a little bit on the weight savings. A lot of people think, fiberglass, lighter weight. So when you go into that double hull, you do give away the weight savings. However, we felt that you benefit just a whole lot more.
I would imagine, would that allow it to be warmer in the winter? and the shoulder seasons?
Yeah, 100%. So just as an example, for our unit, our exterior hull and interior hull are both around a 1/4 inch thick. And then in between, and there could be some varied spaces, but in between, you might have air space of maybe 2 inches or down to a 1/4 inch, whatnot. And that in and of itself is an insulator, let alone the insulation that we put in, let alone the 2 pieces of fiberglass themselves.
Okay.
So there's multiple insulation points that does absolutely keep the heat in, keep the cool in.
Does it help with the leaking, preventing that from taking place?
Yeah. So obviously, if you have 2 and there was some type of incursion on the outer, then it would just go into the inner, and depending on how the construction is, it could just drain out of the bottom.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, if it was just a single, it's in your unit.
Where are you folks headquartered?
Yeah, we are headquartered in Apple Creek, Ohio, which, if you're familiar with Ohio, Canton, Ohio, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is about 45 minutes northeast of us.
So what makes you different from other manufacturers?
Yeah, so I guess when we're talking about other manufacturers, we need to just say, okay, who is quote unquote another manufacturer? Because I think we need to divide that up. So clearly the space that I'm playing in is fiberglass. So what differs me from other fiberglass manufacturers would be, say, going double hull. So there are some that do, most are single. The list of amenities that I talked about, and then absolutely the aesthetic, because there's so many great things with fiberglass. However, they just aren't very attractive. And I thought to myself, this is where we take all those positive things and we make it look great.
It looks different, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, we are really inspired by the sort of the European vibe and the caravan market out there. And I really felt like it was a great face to put on this new fiberglass unit. So on the other hand, when we look at the conventional travel trailer and you say, what differs you from them? I'm just going to say the use of fiberglass, because look, I did not work with fiberglass. I've had experiences with fiberglass in my former life. However, most of everything we used was aluminum frame construction, traditional in nature, and it had themes. And at the end of the day, when you're talking about fiberglass, you're talking about something that is very sustainable, very durable. It's seamless. There's no slides or anything of that nature. It's just a far superior, longer lasting material.
Okay, fair enough. And like I said, it looks different. It will stand out in a campground, that's for sure. Are they designed for full-time use?
You know what? All cards on the table. It wasn't necessarily something that I set out to do. But as I stepped back at the end of the project, I looked at it and I said, you know what? This is frankly an ideal unit. Now, everybody has different needs. So I will say that when I look at that, I say, number one, the usage of material. It's durable, right? So it's going to be set there. When you also talk about full timing, plenty of power, right? So what we do in terms of power is we've equipped it with Battleborn batteries, the 270 amp hour game changer that you can bump up to the 540. We put 500 watts of solar on the roof, but we also give you an external port so you can add a couple hundred extra there. There's a 3,000 watt inverter from Victron. And then we put 2 30-pound LP tanks up front. So there's a lot of power, a lot of fuel that you can operate with on this Morningstar. And then if you look at the plumbing aspects, we're talking full time. So you've got your highs and your lows and your weather, right? And we're up here in Ohio experiencing a lot of lows right now, but the underbelly, it's interesting when you have double hull, you're like, okay, what's the best way to keep my tanks safe, to keep them heated? Some people actually put the tanks in between the hulls, which I think to myself, oh, that's a pretty good idea. And then as we got into it and we're designing, we're like, you know what? Ease of access is something that's very important. And that's not necessarily easy. So what we ended up doing is designing an additional enclosed, heated, insulated underbelly. Not only do the tanks have a traditional heating pad on them, but we also have the Truma combi system pumping hot air into that lower chamber. And then, of course, the chamber is insulated on top of all of that.
Okay. Does the double hull help with keeping the units cool in the summer as well, so they don't use as much electricity?
Yes, it works both ways, just like that. And what's also neat about the double hull is that it allows us to employ the Truma Aventa, which is their AC unit. And we don't have a direct drop for AC. What we do is we duct it. So now we've got that upper hull and the inner hull, and then we have AC ducting throughout. So we have 7 different drop points for the AC. So not only do you have those nice layers of insulation, but it's also the conduit for the AC.
That is unique in itself. That's pretty cool. What is the difference between the Morningstar and the Morningstar Eye?
Yes. Plain and simple, the Morningstar Eye is just indicative of the suspension. So it's the independent suspension. It's by Kurt. And obviously it's going to give you a bit of a lift. It's going to give you a different type of ride. The aesthetic on the Morningstar Eye will vary slightly because instead of the front clean look, we will also be having a darker, we'll call it like a rock guard. So on the standard unit, it would be like a clear PPF film. But on the Morningstar Eye, it would almost be like a Linex material to give a little bit more of a rugged appearance. You will inevitably have larger gravel rocks coming up, depending if you are actually off of a paved road. So we put a little bit more durable cover on that front as well.
Okay. Now, we had talked about using it for full time, and the length is only about 23 feet, if I recall, by looking on your website. So that would be ideal for a solo work camper, or maybe even a couple, but probably not a family. Do you have any plans for building bigger RVs?
Greg, that's a great question. At the inception, I had targeted the 23-foot space to be where I need to hit the market, where I need to enter. And from there, I was going to spread my wings, both north and south. So the meat of the fiberglass market is really in that 15 to 17 foot range. That's where the 800-pound gorillas of Scamp and Casita reside. But if you look at the other end, there's not a whole lot going on. And there could be some valid reasons. Done some investigation on that point. But we have plans to introduce a 29-footer and potentially something a little larger down the road if that proves out. But our path right now is the next 2 units will be a 17 and a 29. So that way we'll have 17, 23, 29. And that 29 will really give you an extra 6 feet of space in the cabin. So yeah, you can do a whole lot with 48 square feet.
Absolutely. Well, that's cool. So that might be coming out later this year or early next?
It is our hope that we could get this out by maybe this point next year. To be honest with you, the original plan was to go 23, 17, 29. Depending on how some things go operationally, we might go to the 29 first and then circle back to the 17. So I can't really put a finger on the date, but those are the units that will be coming one way or the other.
Okay, we'll look for them in the future.
Yes.
And you said that these are designed basically to be used for boondocking as well because they've got solar put in? It comes standard?
It's absolutely standard. Yes, sir.
Okay, super. So how long would something like that allow somebody to be out and about without being plugged into shore power?
Yeah. So again, it's going to depend on the user themselves and what are they trying to draw. We felt that it was important to equip the unit with 2 30-pound LP tanks instead of the traditional 20s. On our unit, the combi system draws LP and then the cooktop as well. Obviously, that's probably a little bit overkill in terms of how far you could stay out unless you're cooking all the time. Obviously, we have a external LP hookup too, so if you're grilling or whatever a lot, it could still last you quite some time. With respect to the battery system and all the other components that are pulling off of it, like I said, 500 watts of solar on the roof. You could get another 200 off of the sun chaser panel. All of the components are energy efficient. A lot of them are 12 volt. Some of them are not, and some of them will run much better as a 120 through the inverter versus a strict 12 volt. So it's hard to give you a firm number on that. It would really just depend on what you're using, what those amp draws are. So I talked to a number of people down at the Tampa Super Show, and some of these guys are really dialing in on what they need. And they said, oh, that'd be fantastic for us, honey. And then there another guy, and he's, oh no, that would only last me for 4 days the way I use stuff. So I'm gonna need something more heavy than that. And I said, fair point. If you want to wait for that 29 footer, I'm gonna have 6 more feet to throw solar up time. There's again, so many options, so many things you can do with it. It just depends how you want to, I guess, employ the resources.
I think 4 days would be ample for many work campers who have 2 to 4 days off every week or two. So they could go out and boondocking without having to worry about plugging in anywhere. So that's another benefit for them. Can people tour your manufacturing facility?
Yes. So we are a very young company, but we are also open to the public 5 days a week. We're happy to have visitors. Right now, we only do have a few units in motion at any given point of time. If you want to schedule a visit, you can drop us an email at info@awakenrv.com or give us a call. It's 330-778-0004. But visiting our website, you'll see a whole bunch, and we're an open book, and we love to share and have people visit. So,
by being a young company, that means you're just getting started, so you don't have a lot of inventory sitting on the lot to go out. Can people custom order one of these and create it what they need specifically?
So yes and no. Yes to your point, which is we're young, we have no inventory sitting. We have probably 5 or 6 months worth of orders just waiting to get filled. So great problem to have. With respect to custom ordering it, the nature of fiberglass really limits that because molds are expensive, and it's unlike a traditional build. You can't just say, yeah, move the bed over 3 inches, now screw it down. It's in there. You can't. We are looking at a couple of different options, right? So right now there's only 3 options that you can have.
Okay.
2 of them are included and you can choose them. And the one we talked about previously is a paid for option. So number 1, do you want your unit to be bright white, or do you want it to be like a cloud color, like a silver mist color? Number 2, would you like to have the traditional twin bed setup that runs north to south, or would you like the east to west versatile queen bed? And then the third one, which we discussed, is the suspension. Would you like the rubber torsion axle, or would you like the independent suspension? So that's as much right now as you can customize. With that said, with a 29 footer, we'll probably put maybe an extra 1 or 2 things that you can play around with, because everybody's needs are different. Some people want a jackknife sofa. Some people want a couple loungers. Some people love the U-shaped dinette. Some just say, no, just give us a place where 2 people can sit down and get that U out of there. There's all kinds of preferences, and we like to learn and dig into the community, and we love getting feedback even before we've made something of what people want to see. Getting out to those shows, having emails come in, people that have designed their own floor plans. We get a ton of stuff, and we welcome it with open arms. And it really helps us because we know that we don't know best all the time. Who knows best? The people that are in the field.
So you're saying that it would take about 5 months from the time somebody orders one to the time they could pick it up?
There are some open slots within that.
Okay.
I think that's safe to tell people 5 months, but I do know that some dealers have put in open slots for pre-sold units, or not pre-sold units that would be sold to a client from a specific show. So we're starting with a really tight dealer body. Right now, it's really anchored by just a handful. And I think probably for the year, we'll probably be operating out of perhaps 15 different locations. But yeah, if somebody's interested, someone sees one at a show, someone goes to a dealership and sees it and wants to place an order, unless they can take that unit specifically off their lot, which I've encouraged dealers, hey, you try to hold on to one and take orders off of it. Yeah, they're probably looking at a good 3 to 5 months.
Okay, fair enough. Well, do you have any special warranty that comes with the unit?
Yeah, so we have a 531, and that is a 5-year structural. So that would be on the shell and the chassis. So anything that goes wrong on any of that stuff, we'd cover there. The 3 years is craftsmanship. So anything that we've done from a wiring or a plumbing standpoint in the build would be covered for 3 years. And then there's a 1 year, which is components, right? And some components could be 1 year, 6 months. Some are 10 years, like Battleborn batteries, 5 years. Dexter, I believe, Truma's 5 years. We call it a 531 plus.
That's very good. So you're hoping to have about 15 dealers scattered around the country this year?
Yes. Yeah. The goal for this calendar year is to probably get to that 15. I've been doing this a long time in terms of looking at North America, knowing some of where the markets are, knowing that I'm in a niche that probably is only going to supply between 3,000 and 5,000 units, depending on what type of year it is. So I think that when it's all said and done, we're probably just talking about 25 to 30 dealers.
Okay.
The goal is to really make it so no one has to really drive much more than a day or anything like that. But then it's strong on the coasts, it's strong on the north and the south. And then center of the country is a little bit, we'll see what happens.
I understand. So people can go to your website and find a dealer near them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, right now we do have a handful of dealers plugged in. So you can go ahead and go to the Find a Dealer tool and it will shoot back the dealer is, and it might be a couple states away at this point, but you can always call us too, and we can help facilitate or learn what your needs are, because some people are transient, and we can certainly help people find the best person to work with.
That's a great idea. Remind people where they can get that information.
It's www.awakenrv.com.
Sounds easy to me. Thank you very much for sharing this with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
My thanks again to Scott Hubble, the CEO of Awaken RV, for taking time to come on this show to talk about what could be an excellent RV for solo work campers and couples. In this conversation, Scott broke down the practical benefits of Awaken RV's double-hull fiberglass design, including how the exterior and interior shells create multiple insulation points that can help with comfort in colder weather and hotter seasons. He shared more details about Morningstar and the company's philosophy that everything is standard, with a focus on building a trailer that is ready for real travel and extended use. Scott said it's reasonable for buyers to pick up their RVs about 5 months after placing an order. However, some situations are running closer to 3 to 5 months, depending upon dealer availability. He also outlined Awaken RV's 531 warranty, which he explained as 5 years structural, 3 years craftsmanship, and 1 year on components. However, some components have even longer manufacturer warranties. To learn more, visit www.awakenrv.com or email the company at info@awakenrv.com. The company does give tours, and work campers can call 330-778-0004 to schedule a visit. Today's episode was brought to you by the featured employers at workamper.com. These Workamper employers have taken the extra step to share some photos and detailed information about their Workamper programs with you. So check them out today. Opportunities exist for solos, couples, and families, whether they are full-time, part-time, seasonal, or even long-term jobs. Some are income opportunities, and others involve volunteering at locations throughout the United States. Go to www.workamper.com/FE to meet the featured employers today. If you are an employer seeking to hire work campers, then you can learn how to benefit from year-round recruiting by becoming a featured employer. Visit www.workamper.com/FE details. That's all for this week's show. Next time I'll be speaking with the owner of a New England campground who is looking for several work campers to assist his mostly seasonal guests this summer. I'll have that interview on the next episode of The Workamper Show. Thank you for listening.